You think dying is dramatic? Try falling in love with someone when you're not sure you'll live long enough to tell him. That's the kind of thought that used to haunt me every time I caught him sketching my face in the sterile light of the hospital ward. His name was Ethan. He was hired as a portrait artist for patients in the oncology wing of St. Mary's Hospital in Boston. At first, it sounded like a joke. Who in their right mind would want their sick face, pale and hollow-eyed, turned into a keepsake on canvas? But when you're stuck in a room where time tastes like bitter medicine, Earthy's art felt like a rebellion against despair. The first time he walked in, sunlight followed him through the glass doors as if even the day itself wanted to be near him. His hair was a messy crown of brown waves, his jeans frayed, shirt stained with colors I couldn't name. He wasn't conventionally handsome, not the kind of boy who makes people stop in their tracks, but there was something about the way he carried himself like the world hadn't broken him yet that made my lungs forget their job. And maybe that was why I hated him at first, because he made breathing feel like falling in love, and for someone like me whose time was measured in chemocycles, that was dangerous. "Mind if I paint you?" he asked, voice casual, as if he were asking to borrow a pen. I almost laughed. "You sure you want to capture this?" I gestured at myself. Pale skin, hair thinning, the kind of body that screamed illness. He didn't flinch. Especially this. That was Ethan. He looked at broken things and saw beauty. For days he came back, setting up near the window of my room, sketching with quiet concentration. He asked questions, not the intrusive kind, but the sort that made me forget I was a patient. He wanted to know my favorite music, the first time I skipped class, what I thought happiness meant. Somewhere between his pencil strokes and my hesitant answers, a rhythm began to form. I should have pushed him away. Love, or even the ghost of it, had no place here. My parents already looked at me like I was made of glass. My doctors spoke in cautious probabilities. But Ethan didn't treat me like I was fragile. He laughed when I made dark jokes about my condition, teased me about my handwriting, shared stories about his failed art shows and his dreams of one day painting murals across city walls. He made me feel alive in a place designed for waiting to die. One evening, when the sky outside turned the color of bruised peaches, Ethan leaned back from his canvas and said, "You know, your eyes are impossible." I raised a brow. "That bad?" "No," he said, grinning. "Too much life for someone who keeps pretending he's already gone." That was the first time I wanted to kiss him. But kisses belong to futures, and I wasn't sure I had one. Weeks passed. His painting of me was almost done. The staff adored him. The patients smiled when he walked by, and somehow, without permission, he became part of my world. My parents didn't know what to think. My mom said he was a good distraction. My dad said nothing, which was worse. He avoided the subject of Ethan the same way he avoided talking about my prognosis. Then came the day I collapsed in the hallway, body too weak to hold me upright. I woke up to machines beeping, nurses rushing, and Ethan's hand gripping mine as if letting go would cost him something vital. His face was pale, eyes red. I'd never seen him like that. "You scared the hell out of me," he whispered. I forced a smile. "Guess I like dramatic entrances." His voice broke. "Don't joke about this. Don't joke about leaving before I finish the painting." That was when I realized wasn't just an artist passing through. He cared. Maybe more than I deserved. But caring came with consequences. Because when the world knows two boys are more than friends, the stares change. The whispers follow. My father finally snapped one afternoon when he walked in on Ethan helping me back into bed, our hands too slow to pull apart. "This is not appropriate," he said, voice sharp as glass. "You're supposed to be getting better. Not what?" I shot back, surprising even myself. My voice shook, but it was loud. "Not living? Not feeling something real for once?" Ethan froze, guilt flashing across his face as if he had dragged me into trouble I didn't need. My father's eyes burned with something I couldn't name: fear, disappointment, maybe both. That night, Ethan didn't show up. I told myself it was for the best, that I was sparing him the inevitable heartbreak. But when I saw the unfinished canvas leaning against the wall, my chest hollowed out. The boy who had made me believe in color was gone, and I was back to grayscale. Or so I thought. The next morning, he walked in again, paintbrush in hand, defiance in his eyes. He didn't look at my father, who stood stiff in the corner. He looked at me, only me. "I'm not leaving," he said simply. "Not until I finish this. Not until you see yourself the way I see you." And that was the moment I realized this was no longer about art. This was love, reckless and inconvenient, but real. Ethan kept his word. Day after day, even when my treatments left me too weak to speak, he came with his paints. Sometimes he sketched in silence. Sometimes he rambled about art movements or the way Boston streets smelled after rain. When I couldn't answer, he didn't press. He just stayed. And there's something about silence shared that feels deeper than words. But the pressure from outside didn't fade. My father avoided Ethan completely, refusing to acknowledge him. My mother, caught in the middle, whispered to me one night, "He's afraid of losing you and losing the picture of what your life was supposed to be. But I think Ethan's love is the only thing keeping you here." Her words burned into me. The truth was, the line between hope and despair blurred every day. There were mornings I woke with such crushing fatigue I wanted to disappear into the sheets. Yet every time I opened my eyes and saw Ethan there, his hair a wild halo under hospital lights, I thought, maybe I can survive one more day. Maybe for him. One afternoon, I asked him the question that had been gnawing at me. "Why me, Ethan? You could have painted anyone. Healthy, radiant, alive. Why waste your colors on me?" He looked at me for a long time, then touched the canvas gently, as though it were flesh. "Because you make me believe that beauty isn't about lasting. It's about existing right here, right now. You don't know what you've given me." I wanted to argue, but the way his voice cracked silenced me. The painting neared completion. Every brushstroke felt like a countdown. My doctors spoke cautiously about my progress, small victories, tiny steps. I clung to them, but I also clung to Ethan, because he was my proof that living meant more than surviving. Then came the night of the fundraiser. The hospital held a charity event to showcase art created in the ward patients' drawings, sculptures, and, yes, Ethan's portraits. His piece of me was chosen as the centerpiece. I almost refused to go, ashamed of being displayed like some fragile relic. But Ethan insisted. "It's not about showing your illness. It's about showing your life." The ballroom glowed with golden lights, filled with donors in suits and dresses. I stood awkwardly in a borrowed blazer, for scars hidden beneath the sleeves. Ethan hovered beside me, his presence steady. When they unveiled the portrait, silence fell. It wasn't the sick boy I expected to see. Ethan had painted me as if I were caught in sunlight, me eyes not tired but fierce, my body not fragile but resilient. He had taken every ounce of me, even the broken parts, and turned them into something luminous. My father stared at it, his jaw tight. My mother's hand flew to her mouth. For the first time, I wasn't ashamed. I felt seen. After the event, when people scattered with champagne glasses, my father approached. His voice was rough. "He loves you." I blinked, not sure I heard right. He swallowed hard, eyes never leaving the painting. "And you look alive again." It wasn't a blessing, but it was no longer condemnation. And for us, that was a start. Outside the hotel, the air smelled of cold night and city streets. I leaned against Ethan, exhausted but giddy. "You made me look like a warrior." "You are one," he said simply, pressing his forehead to mine. That was the first time we kissed. It wasn't desperate or rushed. It was quiet, trembling, two broken pieces daring to fit together. The weeks that followed were not easy. Treatments continued. Pain persisted. But something shifted inside me. I began to fight not just for survival but for the possibility of living, for art shows and road trips, for mornings tangled in sheets and evenings arguing about movies, for every stupid, ordinary thing I once thought I'd never have. Ethan became part of my family slowly, not by forcing his way in but by standing steady at my side. He helped my mom carry groceries. He spoke respectfully to my father, even when met with silence. And little by little, walls cracked. There was one evening, months later, when my father lingered after dinner. He looked at Ethan across the table, then at me. "You remind me of him," he said to Ethan, voice low. "Of the boy I used to be, before fear made me small." It wasn't approval, but it was something close to peace. Time passed. Seasons turned. My health stabilized, not cured, but managed. Enough that I could walk without support, enough that I could laugh without wincing. And one spring morning, Ethan brought me outside to the hospital garden. He carried something under his arm, the finished painting. "Why bring it here?" I asked. "Because this is where it belongs," he said, setting it on an easel near the blooming magnolias. "Not locked in a gallery. Here, where people who need hope can see it." I stared at the canvas, at myself, immortalized in strokes of color and light. My throat tightened. "So it's not mine?" He smiled softly. "It's ours. And there's everyone who walks past and thinks maybe, just maybe, life is worth holding on to a little longer." I didn't know whether to cry or laugh, so I did both, clinging to him as the world blurred around us. Ethan kissed my temple. "I'll keep painting you, as many times as it takes. Even when you think there's nothing left to see, I'll find it." And in that moment I understood. Love doesn't heal sickness. Love doesn't promise forever. But love, his love, had given me back the will to fight, to dream, to live. That was the gift hidden in the last painting. Not a miracle cure, but something even rarer. The certainty that even if time is fragile, even if tomorrow is uncertain, today is worth everything. And with Ethan by my side, I believed it. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe to stay updated with the latest videos.